Hello, my friends. This is Brian the Speaker coming to you today with a review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I realize I'm a little behind on this, and I apologize. I think I'm getting a cold, and so if my voice sounds unusually deep, that's because my chest is full of unpleasant stuff. And if I end up coughing through this video, I apologize. I'll try and go back and edit that out. But let's get into this. Review. So I went and saw Spider-Man No Way Home with my kids, and so to give you guys a little bit of background on where I stand with Spider-Man, I really liked the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Thought the second Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire was good. The third one wasn't. No. And I can see why he stopped. The next one with what's his face, Andrew Garfield. I never really got into those at all. I watched little bits of them, but I didn't like the guy that they got to play Harry Osborn. The weird looking kid with the greased hair and just the whole design of that Spider-Man universe. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feel of it. I really liked Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And so I kind of never really gave Andrew Garfield a chance, which I kind of feel bad about now. One of the other problems is something I'll talk about in a minute because it comes up again in this film, No Way Home. So I never really watched the Amazing Spider-Mans, which I think is what they called the Andrew Garfield ones. And so I don't have as much of opinion on those. The new Spider-Mans with my daughter's future husband, all of them, they all think he's super hot. They're not. I don't know if they're aware that he's dating Zendaya or however you say her name. I don't know. But I really like him as Spider-Man. He's not the best person I could see to do Spider-Man. I like him as Peter Parker. I thought Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was probably the best version of Peter Parker. I don't know. They all have their goods and their bads. I grew up watching the cartoon Spidey and Friends with Iceman and I think it was Starfire or Firestar. And man, I love those. Watch those religiously every Saturday morning, back when Saturday morning cartoons were a big thing. Back in the age of dinosaurs when Bryans walked the earth. Because my kids seem to think that I was raised during the Jurassic period. And I keep telling them, I was during the Crustacean era. Anyway, the first Spider-Man, I thought with the new Spider-Man, for some reason I've lost his name. I know you guys are like, it's this Brian. Turn your brain back on. I can see his face, but for some reason his name is just out of my head. The first one of those, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. The second one wasn't nearly as good. It was just all right. And now we come to the new one, No Way Home. It was good. It was really good, actually, in a way that Marvel hasn't been pulling off lately. And I kind of have to think it must be the Sony side influencing things, keeping them from making stupid decisions with Spider-Man. Because to Sony, man, that's a big property. I mean, that is one of the biggest Marvel superheroes. Spider-Man he's right up there with like Superman as far as name recognition and stuff like that. I mean, he is huge. The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. He was one of the first. With the Tobey Maguire films, he was one of the first comic book heroes to really get a franchise of live-action films that were worth a darn. Up until that point, most superhero movies were kind of cheesy and goofy, and I mean, there was occasional blips here and there, but with like Blade and other type of superheroes, comic heroes or whatever, that showed up, but none that really took off like the Spider-Man films did. They are by far and away probably the most successful ones out there. I just think that this film really hit all the right buttons. One, I felt like it had undone a lot of the damage that were done in the first two Spider-Man films. And by damage, I mean the fact that everybody and their freaking dog seems to know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It's not a secret identity if everybody knows. And that kind of started in the first film with Michael Keaton's character finding out who Spider-Man was right off the bat. I mean, and there was that in Tobey Maguire. Green Goblin figures out that he is Spider-Man, and most of the villains usually will. And with the movies, it just seems like they get to that part really fast. I mean, I think in the comics, they're not nearly as quick to have the villain find out that he is Peter Parker. But I mean, if you go back to those Tobey Maguire films, they have given us some of the best one-line thing. You will see the clips from that Spider-Man, especially the J. Jonah Jameson clips, pop up all the time in people's videos. Because and I just lost that actor's name too. I really like this guy, and for some reason he's just gone. But we see him back in these films as J. Jonah Jameson. Now he's not working for the Daily Bugle, which is a departure, which is one of those different universe kind of a things. I guess that's what they're going for. But this movie really just goes all the way. From here on out, there's spoilers. There's going to be spoilers. So if you have not seen this movie yet, you might not want to watch the rest of this. Because we're going to talk about this film pretty well in depth. This is going to be a fairly long video. Because there's a lot to go over in this film, and there's a lot of stuff I'm sure I'm going to miss, and I'm not going to get everything talked about. But this movie feels like a real Spider-Man film. You get the best of all the Spider-Man films in this, with one exception, and we'll cover that in a little bit. Like I said, it's the one fly in the ointment for me with this film, and and it just is what it is, and it's more of just a personal issue that I have, not necessarily something that the film did wrong or whatever. It's just a personal bugaboo of mine that kept me from really enjoying this as much as I probably should have been able to. So I mean, we find this story picks up right after the last film, where his identity has been compromised by Mysterio. Everybody knows who he is. He's kind of out there. He's getting both spectrums of love, admiration and love and hate and just indifference and disgust from the other half of everybody. And so it's a real hot and cold thing for him, and he's trying to figure out how to deal with it. And because everybody knows who he is and knows who his friends are and what they're involved with him being Spider-Man starts to affect their lives. The lives of his best friend and his girlfriend, and they're not getting into colleges because of their connection to Peter Parker. And so we see him really struggling with that, and because of that, he's in a store and he sees these Halloween lights, and it reminds him of Doctor Strange. So he goes to visit Doctor Strange at the location in New York. So he's there. We get another great performance from Benedict Cumberbatch. I love him in Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one of my more favorite Marvel films. I just don't know why. I just really like that one. I always have, even despite the flaws that it had with the Ancient One and some of the stuff that they altered and changed. I was okay with that because of who they got to play the Ancient One. Had they just picked some random person, I probably wouldn't have. But Tilda Swinton is, I really like her as an actress, and she brings something kind of special and unique to the roles that she gets assigned. I mean, the fact that they cast her as the witch in Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe, oh my gosh, master stroke by whoever cast her for that role. Just epically good choice. So the thing is that so they move on, and he goes to see Doctor Strange. He's complaining. He's talking about like the fact that it's ruining his friends' lives, and goes through all this stuff, and then we find out that the Sorcerer Supreme is the Chinese guy or the Asian guy. His name's escaping me. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he's the one that you always see with Doctor Strange. And I apologize for not having his name right at the tip of my fingers. Not as professional as I would like, but I'm kind of driving, so I can't be like, well, let me look that up on my iPad for you. So, anyway. So that this is going on. He tells him he thinks he has a spell that can make people forget he's Spider-Man, and the Sorcerer Supreme guy doesn't want him to do that because he's worried about what'll happen. But Strange basically talks him into it, or just basically says, "I'm gonna do it whether you want me to or not." That we see that the Time Stone is missing. Doctor Strange does not have the Time Stone, which led to questions for me about like where is that? What happened to it? Why is it not with Doctor Strange? Was it taken back to Comitage because after what happened in Endgame, and he's not the Sorcerer Supreme or whatever, and so he's not allowed to have it. I don't know. They don't really talk about it. It's just alluded to the fact that he doesn't have it with him. So it's just so they go do this spell. Peter Parker, realizing that he doesn't want everyone to forget that he's Spider-Man. He wants Ned to be able to remember, and he wants Zendaya and MJ, not MJ, to not forget. So he's like he keeps interrupting Strange during the spell, and Strange keeps having to add lines into the spell, and then different things start happening, and the spell goes out of control, and then Doctor Strange sucks the spell back in and contains it within a crystalline cube, decahexamal, whatever looking shape. I don't know what the shape's called. I was never even good at geometry. Anyway, so he does all this stuff, and anyway, because of the mistake with the spell, some of the villains from previous timelines or universes are pulled into this universe. So we suddenly see Doc Ock show up from the original film. Great moment. So good to see and I love the fact that they went and got the actors to do this, to play this. I really am glad that they were able to get these. I mean, it's been 20 some odd years since they did those films, so the fact that they can still go get those guys to be in the film and that it looks great is just, the continuity was really awesome. You know, this was not a Star Wars blunder of, hey, these guys are still alive and we could do this, but you know what? Let's have them never be on screen together. No, Spider-Man learned from the mistakes of Star Wars. Sony probably did if Disney didn't. Anyway, so we find that they've started to pop up. Anyway, it goes through things, and he's trying to help heal these guys because Strange just wants to send them back to their universe after these villains have learned they're dead. They're dead in their universes. They've died at the hands of Spider-Man. You know, Green Goblin, he was killed by Spider-Man. Doc Ock was killed by Spider-Man. And really, they killed themselves, but Spider-Man was involved, so he gets the blame for it. Electro Man, or I can't remember what that guy's name, his character was. The Sandman, and I mean, everybody's basically dead in their universe. Not Sandman, but so they're, you know, so Peter's feeling bad for these guys. He doesn't, I mean, he knows they're villains who died in other universes, but he has no idea about the circumstances. So he's feeling like maybe I should try and help cure these guys and solve their problem. I mean, he still has access to Stark technology. Something that is really, really downplayed in this film. The fact that he has access to all of Tony Stark's stuff is really downplayed because of the role that Tony Stark's stuff had in the disaster in the last film. And there's all these questions floating around about how he was involved and that his, you know, weapons were used to kill Mysterio, and Mysterio made it look like Spider-Man was the bad guy and the Mysterio was still the good guy, which he wasn't, you know. So, I mean, you remember the last film. So, anyway, so he starts trying to help all these people because, lo and behold, Green Goblin shows up, and Osborn, the real Osborn, tries to reassert himself over the top of the Green Goblin. And so he goes and realizes that there's, in this universe, there's no Oscorp, there's no Harry, there's nothing. He doesn't even exist in this timeline or in this universe. And so he's lost. He can't figure out what to do. And anyway, so there Peter's trying to cure them and fix them, and then realizes that the Green Goblin is double-crossing him through his Spidey senses, and he figures out that the Green Goblin has reasserted himself and took back over control of Dr. Osborn. And but before that, Otto Octavius gets cured. He's able to put a new chip in the back, which restores his control over the arms instead of the arms controlling him, which in a sense will end up bringing Otto Octavius back to life, or that he would never have died in the previous timeline or the previous universe that he was in. It opened up some really kind of cool possibilities in the stories that were told before. I don't know if they'll ever do anything with that, but and then we get the entrance of Peter Garfield as Peter Parker, and we also see Tobey Maguire come back as Peter Parker. And Tobey Maguire looks good, if not quite a bit older than the last time he was Spider-Man. And there's a joke about how he looks like a youth pastor, the way he's dressed. There's some really good, fun humor in this, like you come to expect with the Marvel films. But it's not, like I said, I think Sony tried to rein them back in on the stupid humor. that has been becoming almost over the top in the modern or the Marvel films that we're getting. I think Sony's kind of went in and went like, just all right, let's make some jokes, but this should not be just one big giggle fest, you know, if people are going to take this seriously at all. And so we end up with this big kerfuffle, and Doc Ock escapes, and everybody else escapes because Green Goblin attacks this universe's Peter Parker, and they all get away. Green Goblin pardon me. Osborn smashes the Goblin mask at the very beginning, towards the very beginning. So we end up just seeing him without the mask. But note to Star Wars: if you want to destroy a villain's mask, this is a better way to do it. It's like they looked at what happened in Star Wars, The Last Jedi, where what's his face throws a tender tantrum and smashes his mask, and they went like, "Hey guys, I got an idea. Let's not do that. Let's do the exact opposite of that and make it seem like there's a real reason why he's doing that, not that he's just a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum." So I mean, I caught that and I just thought, man, maybe nobody thought about that, but I noticed it. It's like, this is how you smash a mask if you're trying to unmask a villain or do something different with the characters. Like, this is a better way. Anyway, so I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a good movie. I won't tell you about the end, but now we're going to get to the part where I tell you about the thing that I did not like in this movie. And it's the fact that Jamie Foxx is in it. Now, I know that doesn't make sense. Well, Brian, you were saying it was great to have all the old villains back. Yes, it was great to have all the old villains back, except for Jamie Foxx. I can't stand Jamie Foxx. I absolutely loathe him as an actor. If he's in a movie, 9 times out of 10, I will not even go see it. I've had my buddies rave to me about like other movies that he's been the main actor in, and I'm just like, no. And they're like, dude, but it's a really great movie. You won't even think that it's him. And I'm just like, no, yes, I will. He's one of those people who's just been so outspoken and such an asshat in his real life that I can't not know it's him. Sorry. So, it's one of those things where, yeah, no. And I can't stand him. I absolutely can't stand him. And the perfect example of why I can't stand him is because there's a line where at the end where he finally gets cured by Peter. Oh, I just told you some of the anyway, you already know, or you shouldn't be watching this yet. I warned you. So he's sitting there, and Peter finally heals him and gets the electricity out of him to be sent back to his world or his universe. And he's like, and he takes off his mask. Andrew Garfield takes off his mask, and he finally sees who Spider-Man actually is, because he apparently was the one villain who never found out. And he's like, oh shoot, I thought you were going to be black. I'm disappointed. And he's like, well, yeah, sorry about that. I'm not. And the guy goes, well, you say there's a lot of universes out there, right? Maybe in one of them, Spider-Man's black. And there was a part of me that just started dry heaving in the theater. I'm like, this is why I hate Jamie Foxx. You know, I'm sure that was a line that they just threw in there because Miles Morales is Spider-Man. But you know what? Into the Spider-Verse, I actually thought it was a good movie, and I really liked it. My kids loved it, and I didn't mind Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man in that movie, because there was a Peter Parker in that universe. Like, Miles Morales didn't just become Spider-Man, he became Spider-Man after the death of Peter Parker in that universe. So I thought there was still some respect and a hat tip given to the real Peter Parker, the real Spider-Man, instead of the trope Peter Parker, which is Miles Morales. But that irritated me. I'm just like, why did that need to be in there? And of course, who would be the first person to volunteer to use that line is the douchebag Jamie Foxx. I'm sure he was like, can I say it? I want to say that line. Hey, Green Goblin was going to say that, but I want to say that because I'm a super duper super black guy. I live to be black and make sure everybody knows how black I am and how much I don't want to be white. I hate Jamie Foxx because of that. He comes off to me as one of the world's worst black racists. Every character I see him in, that's all I see. And I'm just like, you know what? Racism isn't cool no matter what color you are. Sorry. No. So that was the only fly in the ointment. But that's the worst moment in this. The rest of it, I was like, okay. But I mean, the way Jamie Foxx plays that character and the way he is through this film is obnoxious. Out of all the villains, he's the one that I kept wishing Peter wouldn't cure and just send him back to die, because he was such an asshat through the whole. Anytime he's on the screen, he's just an asshat. And I'm like, I couldn't tell whether that was because I can't stand Jamie Foxx. I mean, but I mean, it was the lines, it was the way he was delivering the lines that maybe if it had been somebody else, it would have come off better. But because it was him, it was so bad. It was just, I mean, he's like that snarky, snotty little spoiled shit that isn't getting his way anymore. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he didn't get a bicycle when he was a little kid, and it's all of society's fault. It's systemic racism. His character was written like that, and because of that, it just annoyed the shit out of me. And the fact that it was Jamie Foxx just amplified that. So that was really the only problem I had with this film. And like I say, I'm not even sure it was a problem with the film. I think it was just a problem with me not liking Jamie Foxx. But you let me know if you felt that way about Jamie Foxx's character. He just seemed like a spoiled little shit. The whole like snarking and it just, I'm like, gosh, you sound like a spoiled child, not a super villain. Like, somebody needed to tell you what your motivation was for this film, because you seem to have missed it. You're not here to be this super duper black guy here to save all the black people from the white oppression. So anyway, but that's how it seemed like he was written, and it was just obnoxious. Anyway, so but yeah, overall this was a good film. Good film. It restored my faith in what Sony can and Marvel can do when somebody's there to rein Marvel in and stop them from being raging douchebags. You know, because since Endgame, they have just gone off the rails with their movies and their shows. They're just messing it up, with Daredevil, the TV show, being kind of a blip in the radar, where I'm just like, wow, this is actually good. Because all of the Disney Plus Marvel stuff has just been hot garbage. WandaVision, all of it, just awful. Unwatchable, awful. I have after Vision Wanda and the first little bit of Loki, I just completely checked out. I have not watched anything else Marvel TV show that's been available on Disney Plus. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Or in the Eternals, or in Shang-Chi, the legend of the guy who's not as powerful as he really should be. It's just, anyway, so this was great. It was great to go to a Spider-Man movie and come out feeling just so happy, seeing the other characters, the old Peter Parkers, the other Spider-Man respected and used in an appropriate way that was respectful and was really great about their character. There's some great emotional moments where this universe's Peter Parker is learning from the other universe's Peter Parker what it means to be Spider-Man, and that he's not the only one who's had to suffer and has had to go through this stuff. And it's really kind of a cool moment where there's three people who are the same person in different universes talking about what it is to be who they are. I mean, talk about a therapy provider's just nightmare. So wait, what happened to you? But it didn't happen to you. But it did happen to you, but not to you. But not to you. I mean, that would get really confusing for some poor psychiatrist in the therapy session. But no, it was great. Really, really emotional. Really emotional scene when we see that he loses Aunt May, and that's the catalyst in this universe, not Uncle Ben, which was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But overall, I would give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It really did hit all the right notes. I loved seeing Sandman back. I liked that guy as an actor. It was fun to see him back as Sandman. He didn't get near as much as far as accolades as the guys that play Doc Ock. Jamie Foxx's character, I'd like to say, because it's Jamie Foxx playing it, I just don't even care that it's like Electro or whatever. Oh, Green Goblin. I saw an interview where they had those three, and I'm like, well, where are the other villains? There's a lizard man, and there's the Sandman. Why the hell aren't those actors sitting here, in this interview? So I kind of felt bad. But it was so great to see those villains back, and Willem Dafoe has not lost a step. He was so good as the Green Goblin again. That was probably the best part for me, is just how good Willem Dafoe was back as Green Goblin. I mean, just awesome. Super, super great. The true villain of this story. It made it fun. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I know this is a long video, but there was a lot that happens in this movie, and I wanted to kind of touch on all of it. Doctor Strange was great in this. It's making me look more forward to the Multiverse of Madness. I'm hoping that they do some really great stuff with that, and that it doesn't become the Wanda show, because I hear she's supposed to be in that with Doctor Strange. And if it turns into the Wanda Maximoff show, I'm gonna be pissed. The Scarlet Witch movie. Says if you want to have a Scarlet Witch movie, great. You should do a Scarlet Witch movie. She already got a TV show. This needs to be about Doctor Strange, not the patriarchy and making Doctor Strange look like an asshat. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure you like, share, and subscribe, and comment. I really do want to hear you guys' thoughts on this film and my take on the score and everything for it. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Bye now.